Have you ever wondered how Portugal, a country known for its beautiful beaches and rich culture, came into existence? Our story begins in the second millennium before Common Era, in a time when the Iberian Peninsula was a land of mystery and untamed wilderness. This vast, untouched region attracted the attention of the ancient Phoenicians and Greeks, who established colonies along the Atlantic coast during the first millennium BCE. These early settlers brought with them their cultures, languages, and technologies, leaving a lasting impact on the region. But as history unfolded, a new power was rising in the Mediterranean. By the 2nd century BCE, the Romans had set their sights on the Iberian Peninsula. They swept across the land, conquering territory after territory, until eventually Portugal too fell under their rule. As the Roman Empire rose to power, Portugal became part of the Roman province of Hispania. The fall of the Roman Empire in 476 AD marked a significant turning point in Portugal's history. With the empire's decline, the Iberian Peninsula, where Portugal resides, became a part of the fragments of the Western Roman Empire. However, this wasn't the end of foreign rule in Portugal. In the 8th century, the Umayyad Caliphate of Andalusia, a powerful Islamic empire, swept across the Iberian Peninsula. The Umayyad rule brought significant cultural and architectural influences to Portugal, some of which can still be witnessed in the country's southern regions today. Yet, the spirit of independence was never extinguished in the hearts of the Portuguese. In the 11th century, a brave knight named Henry of Burgundy led a successful campaign against the Moors, the Islamic inhabitants of the Iberian Peninsula. In recognition of his victory, King Alfonso VI of Leon and Castile named him the Count of Portugal, thus establishing the County of Portugal. This was a significant milestone, as it marked the birth of Portugal as an independent entity. Under the rule of Count Henry and his successors, the County of Portugal expanded its territories and strengthened its foothold. The Portuguese fought valiantly against the Moors, gradually reclaiming their lands. The County of Portugal's independence was not easily won. It was a struggle marked by battles and alliances, of shifting loyalties and strategic marriages. Yet the Portuguese persevered, driven by their desire for self-rule and their strong national identity. In the 12th century, the County of Portugal gained royal status. This was a momentous event, as it signified Portugal's recognition as a sovereign kingdom. The transition from a county to a kingdom marked the beginning of a new era in Portugal's history, an era of expansion, exploration, and global influence. But that's a story for another time. For now, let's celebrate the indomitable spirit of the Portuguese, their courage, and their unyielding quest for independence. Because it's this spirit that has shaped Portugal into the vibrant, diverse, and resilient nation we know today. The 15th century ushered in a period of great discoveries for Portugal, propelling it onto the global stage. The Age of Exploration, also known as the Age of Discovery, was a transformative period in history. It was during this era that Portugal, a small nation on the Iberian Peninsula, rose to prominence, leading the way in maritime exploration and global navigation. The lure of new lands, the promise of exotic commodities, and the desire to spread Christianity were all driving forces behind Portugal's exploratory spirit. One of the most significant figures to emerge from this era was the intrepid explorer Vasco da Gama. His historic voyage in 1498 around the Cape of Good Hope marked the first time a European had sailed directly to India, opening a sea route from Europe to the east. This was a monumental achievement, not only for da Gama and his crew, but also for Portugal. It paved the way for further explorations and established Portugal as a key player in the burgeoning global trade network. Portugal's exploratory endeavors didn't stop there. The country's strategic location on the Atlantic Ocean made it an ideal launchpad for expeditions to the New World. In the early 16th century, Portuguese explorers, led by Pedro Álvares Cabral, set sail across the Atlantic, where they would eventually land in Brazil. This marked the beginning of Portugal's colonization in South America, a venture that would prove to be immensely profitable due to the region's abundant natural resources. Alongside these explorations, Portuguese navigators also ventured down the western coast of Africa, establishing numerous trading posts and colonies along the way. The establishment of these overseas territories marked the birth of the Portuguese Empire, a vast network of colonies spread across Brazil, Africa, and Asia. However, by the end of the 18th century, the once mighty Portuguese Empire began to weaken. Despite its decline, Portugal's legacy in the age of exploration is undeniable. It was a period that forever changed the course of world history, and Portugal was at the helm, leading humanity into a new age of discovery and understanding. The 19th and 20th centuries were a time of great change for Portugal. The sun was setting on the Portuguese Empire, and the first sign of this came with the independence of Brazil in the 19th century. The vast and rich colony that had been a jewel in Portugal's crown was now standing on its own 2 feet, marking the start of a new chapter in the annals of Portuguese history. As the empire crumbled, Portugal itself underwent significant changes. The monarchy, which had ruled for centuries, was overthrown in the early 20th century, and the country transitioned to a republican form of government. Democracy was still a far-off dream, though, as the new republic struggled with economic instability and political infighting. Midway through the 20th century, Portugal found itself under the thumb of a dictatorship. This authoritarian regime, known as the Estado Novo, held the reins of power with an iron grip, suppressing opposition and curtailing freedoms. The people of Portugal, however, yearned for change. That change came in the form of the Carnation Revolution of 1974. This peaceful coup, named for the carnations that revolutionaries placed in the barrels of their rifles, swept away the dictatorship and paved the way for a democratic Portugal. The transition was not without its challenges, but Portugal emerged stronger and more united. In the years that followed, Portugal took its place on the world stage as a member of the European Union. This membership opened up new opportunities for trade and cooperation and brought Portugal into the heart of Europe's political and economic life. Today, Portugal continues to play a significant role in global tourism, trade, and culture. From its beautiful beaches and historic cities to its vibrant music and mouth-watering cuisine, Portugal has much to offer. As we look to the future, we can only wonder what the next chapter in this fascinating history will bring. So, what have we learned about the history of Portugal? It's a tale that stretches back to the 2nd millennium BC, where Phoenician and Greek colonies first set foot on the Atlantic shores. The Romans then took over in the 2nd century BC, making Portugal part of the Hispania province. The fall of the Roman Empire in 476 AD led Portugal to become a fragment of the Western Roman Empire. It was then invaded by the Umayyad Caliphate of Andalusia in the 8th century, but by the 11th century, the county of Portugal was established, gaining royal status in the 12th century and breaking away from its neighboring kingdoms of Leon and Castile in the 13th century. The 15th century marked the era of great discoveries, with Portugal reaching across the globe. Famous explorer Vasco da Gama even managed to reach India by crossing the Indian Ocean. This period saw the establishment of the Portuguese Empire, which began to decline in the late 18th century, eventually collapsing with Brazil's independence in the 19th century. The 20th century saw Portugal transition to a republic and establish a democratic regime. More recently, in the latter part of the 20th century, Portugal underwent a transition from a militaristic regime to a democratic system with the Carnation Revolution of 1974. Today, Portugal plays a significant role in tourism, trade, and culture as a member of the European Union. Portugal's history is a fascinating journey, filled with explorations, empires, and evolutions. It's a testament to the resilience and spirit of the Portuguese people,